Good evening. And today we're going to do something a little different. Instead of my usual outdoor nature photography, we're going to look at some product photography, mostly because it was cold and wet and nasty and I didn't want to go outside this morning. But the question has come up before, how to photograph something small and translucent like dice. And so we're going to give that a try tonight. I've got my regular camera that I go out with. I have a macro lens for it, and I have some dice from my friends at Nine Hells Dice that have this lovely translucent quality, and we're going to try to take pictures of those. So let's see how that goes for us.
Just a quick note about the gear that you would use for something like this. I'm using a Pentax DSLR, but any digital camera will work, and I am using a 100 millimeter macro lens. Macro lenses are great for zooming in on detail and giving you bright, crisp resolution. If you don't have a macro lens, any prime lens will work. You can buy inexpensive vintage prime lenses from your local camera shop or eBay.
So this first setup's really simple. I've just got a little light box kit that you can buy from Harbor Freight or Amazon, and they're very inexpensive. I think this was $20 ordered online. And I've just got a white background in it, but you can put other backgrounds in, and we'll experiment with those. But you can see it's very simply lit. And I've got my camera set up right here, fairly close to it. I've adjusted the height so that it's more or less on the level with it, just slightly above. And I've also taken some care in positioning the dice so that there's a special face on this one, a paw print for the one. And so got that lined up. Let's turn our camera on, get a live view from the back. And for this kind of work, it's really best to manually focus it. I just made that adjustment on my camera. Bring the manual focus right back in. And we're going to, again, zoom in really tightly so we can get those crisp lines, crisp details. Okay, nice and crisp, just like we like it. Okay, and now we're going to set, okay, we have a 2-second timer. So that's good. So let's try an automatic exposure and see what we get. Oh, let's go to replay and look. It's not terrible. I think I can do a little bit better though. So let's do some experimentation here. We're going to set the camera to manual mode. There we go. Okay, and I'm kind of blowing out my highlights on the dice. So we're going to take the time down. We're actually going to take the f-stop down. Or take a lower focal length, f22. I think we can take this straight to f16 and be fine. And we're still blowing out a little bit. I'll tell you what, I really like what I'm seeing in the low range. My ISO is a little high, and I'm going to adjust my ISO down. We're going to take this right down to like 400 or so. So I don't dislike what I'm seeing there. My exposure time was crazy long though, and I have to bring that down. Let's take this down into the, all right. If I take it down to 1/5 of a second, I'm getting good detail on the top there. So let's take that. All right, let's look at that. Yeah, the top looks pretty good there. Let's zoom in. Wow, good crisp detail there. That's not bad. I haven't lost detail on the top, I don't think. I'm going to try taking it down even slightly slower than 1/4. All right. All right, 1/3 of a second. Oops, wrong way. Okay, that's a full stop lower. Let's see what that does. Okay, we'll zoom in and have a look at that. All right, we're zoomed there. My detail's not stellar there. All right. Now we're going to take that exposure time way up. Okay, there's where we were, and we thought that the top was okay. But we're pretty dark around the bottom. So let's lighten that up. That's one stop lighter. Okay, and we're going to go another stop lighter. And we're definitely blowing out our background. We're blowing out some details on the top, but that's okay. We aren't going to use those. We're going to do a high dynamic range photo here, and we're going to bring in the different exposure levels. Yeah, that looked pretty good. Let's zoom in. Oh, it looks pretty nice down there. We're getting good details in there. Yeah, I want to go one stop higher. And if you're not familiar with that, it's 3 clicks on your dial for exposure or f-stop settings, 1 click for ISO, but it means a doubling of the available light hitting the image. So let's shoot this. Okay. I think we're getting really good detail in the, yeah, look at that. We're getting good detail down in there in the inclusions. That looks really nice. Okay. So we're going to combine all of those in post-processing to get sort of an idealized exposure for this. So I'm going to change our setup a little bit now. We've reconfigured just a little bit, and this is a different dice that they have sent me. And that is a dice with red and black inclusions, but it is largely a clear die. And let's just repeat the same exposure we had before. Something worth noting that I had to do, because the inclusions don't settle out evenly in this, I had to rotate this until I found a position that gave me the light that I found most satisfactory. But you'll find you'll have to do that with your own product photography as well. But anyway, let's fire this up and let's do that same range of exposures that we've done. And again, just like before, our first step is to zoom in and make sure our focus is as crisp as possible. You see, it takes very little change in our focus to go from beautiful, crisp, and in focus to blurry. Let's try the autofocus and just see if that gets us anything. In fact, I'm going to switch this back on to autofocus mode. And let's see if it can pull an autofocus for me. All right, now we're going to switch it out of autofocus mode. All right, we're back to manual focus. Now let's zoom in and see how that is. All right, that's about as crisp as I was getting it before. I'm going to call that good. The markers on the front aren't as crisp as I would like. I wish that those could be just a little bit crisper, but the inclusions are perfect. All right, I can't resist tweaking it. I think that's about as good as we're going to get. So let me back out of that mode and let's start again. And we're sort of at the peak of our exposure right now. I'm at a 2-second f16 on ISO 400. Let's take the picture. Something I want you to notice too is I've got a 2-second delay on it. And that's because when I touch this, it shakes microscopically. And for a lot of pictures, that wouldn't matter. For a lot of my outdoor pictures, that absolutely doesn't matter. But we have such tight magnification on this. Our depth of field is so small, we have to minimize all vibration. So that 2 seconds is going to give me a lot of relief. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's zoom in just to be sure. Oh, that's gorgeous. Look at that, that's gorgeous. We've got all that beautiful interior detail. the top isn't too badly blown out. We might not need as many exposures to get this. So we're going to take our time down a stop again. So that's 1 second. And you can see our histogram there, our white has not, it's moved off the edge there, so we probably really aren't blowing anything out. All right, that looks good too. Let's zoom in and get a look. Oh, we're pretty good. We're losing a little down there at the bottom, but it's not bad. But good, beautiful detail right in through there. Oh, that's lovely. It's absolutely lovely. There's a reason why I buy these dice from Nine Hells. They make beautiful dice. And the closer you look at them, the better they get. That's just amazing. All right. I don't think we need one more stop lower, but I'm going to just play it safe. Okay, we're at 1 second. We're now at a half second. And I think that's going to be pretty dark on the bottom, but it might give me good exposure on the top. So let's fire this off. All right. Yeah, that looks pretty good. It's getting quite dark on the bottom and I'm losing some detail. Oh, but that's really nice on the top. I'm like keeping some detail on that surface that I was blowing out before. So that's pretty good. All right, I'm pretty happy with that, and I think that's enough photos from that. Well, we've changed the setup just slightly. These little boxes come with different color backgrounds, but even if they don't, if you have to improvise your own light box like this, you can just take any piece of cloth or construction paper and make your own colored backgrounds. So I switched this out to black. It's going to give us a slightly different aesthetic, and we're going to set it up exactly like we did before, and we're going to see how this comes out. So just like before, we need to manually focus it. So what we really want is for that 8 to be about at the center. We're just going to have to adjust ourselves slightly to bring that up there. Let's zoom there. All right, that 8 is not quite as crisp as we would like. There we go. That 8 is very crisp. We're going to zoom up there. Oh, look at how crisp that is. We can see the details in the bottom of the 8. That is perfect. In fact, we can even see places where the paint has bridged there, which I can't actually see in person. That's the kind of magnification we're getting out of this camera. So we're going to take this picture again. This is actually pretty dim. It's looking okay on the on this recording here, but I'm looking at the back of my camera and it's pretty dim. We're going to take it, but notice also with that black background, we're starting to be able to see that inclusion a little bit better. It's a small pine cone, in fact. All right. Let's proof our image. All right. We're okay on the top. This is probably darker than I would like it for anything we're going to do. But we're just going to increase our time by a stop. And you'll notice our histogram there, it's moving over from the edge. That's what we want. All right, that looks pretty good. Notice that we're keeping our high f-stop number that gives us a small aperture and a deep depth of field. And with macro photography, everything we can do to preserve our depth of field is great. So let's double our exposure time again. You'll notice the histogram has moved slightly. Much brighter image again. Starting to see some of the details in that pine cone, so that's really good. Oh, you can see, you can see the little fissures in the resin. Oh yeah, we're starting to see the details in the pine cone. That's really great. Okay. So we're going to double our exposure time again. All right, so that's another stop of exposure. All right, and that's That's pretty nice. We're gonna do that again. Kind of just marching that histogram across. The histogram is a really good measure of where we want to be exposure wise. We have a little wait. 8-second exposure takes some time. Wow, that's pretty crisp. All right, we've doubled it again to 15 seconds. That was pretty good. Let's see how far we can push that histogram. All right. Just about blown out there. Let's take it back there. We're definitely blown out on a lot of facets, but we're pretty close to the edge there. We'll take it. This is 20 some seconds. If we zoom in on that, that looks really pretty good. We're definitely washed out there, but look at that. The details on our pine cone are really crisp. We're blown out on these edges, but those won't be part. We do the HDR combination, those aren't going to be part of it. So this is great. This is exactly what we want.
A quick note about this setup. Instead of a light box, I've set my subject up on a surface with some texture and some visual interest. I'm using a simple light setup. A key light provides the primary light for the scene. At 90 degrees to the key light, I've got a fill light set up. Its job's to fill in and soften the shadows. Links to the inexpensive lights I used are in the description.
So the other thing you're going to see in this scene is my camera is up a lot higher, and that's because I need to look down onto the surface that I've set out for it. And it's going to change just a little bit of how we line things up, but it won't be bad. You also notice there's cables running right through what looks like the scene, but when we open up the camera and look on the back, you'll see those cables are just not in the scene, so I'm just not going to worry about them. Exposure guidance here, just watch my histogram and see where things go. And you can see that it's blown out horribly right now, so we're obviously not going to shoot like that. The first thing we need to do, though, just like we did before, we need to focus. Oops. So we zoom in, and I don't really like that point for my focus. We're going to go up, and we're going to go over here. Look at that. The pine cone's already starting to show through. So there's my primary face that's up sort of towards me. So we're going to pull on that. It feels like that's pretty good right there. I've got good crisp view of the internals. I'm going to go after it again. All right, starting to pick up details in the edge of the numbers there, so that's good. We're getting a little blowout there. That's called chromatic aberration. We're going to come out of our zoom mode now, and we're going to take our ISO down because we're just blowing this out so badly. Although first, maybe let's take our exposure time down. And let's just keep scrolling back until we see the histogram stop blowing out. So that's pretty good right there. Our histogram isn't blown out. You can see right over here, it's in pretty good order. Let's, just as a precaution, focus again. Yeah, that's pretty nice. We've lost our chromatic aberration. Those purple fringes. I'm getting good crisp details on the edges there. I feel pretty good about that. We're going to call that focused. All right. Pretty happy with that. It's a starting exposure. So we're going to do just like we did before and take a series of shots, and we're going to use an HDR stack on them. And so we cut the time down by one stop again. And we're going to cut it down again. All right. And we're pushing down towards the far end of where we can go. We're going to take it. It's better to have it and not need it. All right. So we've got our 4 exposures there on this richer background. We just got a little texture from the wood. This is actually a dice box that I made for a friend. And so now let's take our pictures and let's do our post-processing on them to get our final images.